Hey everybody, final thoughts time for Mr. House. Although before we get to final thoughts, just a quick correction. I noticed I made kind of a dumb goof while I was doing the run-through. In the main run-through, at one point I had my 3-guy card. I split up that card. I had 2 of them work on one of my walls, and then I split one of them to work on a different wall. That's a major no-no. And actually, I knew better. I knew I wasn't supposed to do that, but I just kind of, I'm a flibbertigidigit. I goofed up while I was filming, and as a result, I made that mistake. Normally, when you're playing, a given card can, it doesn't matter how many guys are on it, all those guys can only be set to work on one element of your house. And that's actually a really important element of the game because, I mean, you might have situations where you're wasting guys and they sit around not doing much work because you have 3 guys on a card, but you make them work on a wall, one of them is wasted. So that's an important element. I kind of goofed that up, but enough about my failings as a gameplay run-througher, of which there are many. Let's actually talk about something positive. Let's talk about our special guest co-host today, Nicholas Coe. Nicholas, say hi, right as Jen walked in the door.
Hello.
With the dogs. I'm sorry, I could not hear you over Jen saying woohoo, although she is not the special guest host. It's Nicholas. Hi, Nick.
Hello, Rahdo.
Okay, hi there. Honey, you really have to stop doing that. It's kind of messing everything up. Okay. Hi, Honey Pie. Hi, Nicholas. This is live. This is the way it goes. Okay, well, Nicholas was one of my backers on Kickstarter at the co-host level, and I've done this before in the past with Joel Eddy, and that was a lot of fun. And while that talk, I think, went on for 75 minutes, I don't think Nicholas and I are going to wax rhapsodic for 75 minutes about Mr. House. But I think we both have a little bit of something to say. So, well, Nicholas, I don't know if you want to open or should I, or how do you want to do this?
You can start with talking about the 2-player game.
I will, because I have to admit, I have only played Mr. House as a 2-player game. And I gotta say, I mean, actually, I'm really, really happy Nicholas is here because he can talk about the experience as a 3- or 4-player game, which Jen and I have not had. Because I can say Mr. House as a 2-player game, it's okay. I mean, it works, you know, it functions, but so much of the game is lost. You know, so much of what I imagine is, you know, the excitement of that shopping phase as you're moving around and trying to, you know, because it's all first come, first serve. If somebody else beats you to that spot, well, you might be SOL and you might, you know, mess up your entire turn. But in a 2-player game, Jen and I have found, we've played it a couple times now, the board is so wide open. It is so easy to fall into a rhythm of, well, you know what? I'll go my way, you go yours. Oh, you're going cement? Okay, I'll go brick. Oh, you're going steel? I'll go wood. And, you know, we just never bump into each other. And again, while it functions, and, you know, there is still a certain amount of satisfaction to be had for actually building your house and seeing it build over time, and you can play the market a little bit as prices rise and fall. I mean, the game is really neutered. Half of it is gone. And so that's why I'm really happy to throw over to Nicholas, who, Nicholas, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, it must be, because I can see how good it must be with more players. I mean, am I right or am I wrong?
Yeah, so as a 3- or 4-player game, this is actually one of my top 5 games of 2014. And,
wow.
Well, partially just because of my taste. I really like player-driven economies, and this one has a very simple, light player-driven economy, but it's still very effective. Like, the difference between getting a door for 8 versus 11, I think, is the widest price difference is pretty significant.
Yeah.
And certainly with a 2-player game, like, I played it once as a 2-player, and my experience was that we sort of just went off to our own sides of the board, and we never saw each other. And things like there's at the expo, at most 2 players get something. In a 2-player game, both players get things, and same at the office.
Yeah. Everybody's a winner. Everybody gets something. Like, you get a D, you get a D, and that's it. Just 2 players. I mean, yeah, it's
right. But in a 3- or 4-player, like, there's a lot more. You know, okay, well, 2 people have already gone to the expo, but maybe I think one of them is bluffing because they really need steel or something right now, and so on. And also it's interesting because there's kind of a different strategy that becomes possible, particularly in the 4-player game sometimes, which is going really heavily into quality. I mean, you still need to build your house and complete it because that's a requirement, and that's certainly a bunch of points. But usually, like, or oftentimes someone will go for just quality and actually get up to the maximum of 5 quality, and someone else will, at least one person will build a garage And usually I end up doing the calculation of whether or not it's better for me to take a loan or build a garage. Because, of course, taking a loan is effectively -2 points for your first loan.
Right.
And a garage is +5. And usually the cost of like getting those 2 doors is pretty significant.
Yeah.
But if you can get them on a discount, then it's worth it.
So that's cool. Yeah, I mean, because actually, you're right. That's another thing I noticed. As a two-player game, it really didn't feel like at the end of the game, gens in my houses were all that different. We kind of, reached the same result. But you're suggesting, at least with 4 players, that everybody at the table ends up, by necessity, going in a very different direction and getting a very, very different end result, different house, different paths to victory, as it were.
Right. Because there just aren't enough of. So, for example, if you're going to go and try to get points via building walls and roofs, then you need lots of windows because every wall must have a window on it.
Yeah.
And you need basically you just need tons of steel to do that. And there just isn't enough steel in the game for everyone to go that route. You have to get points somewhere. And the expo cards usually have not been that big of a deal because usually it's more worthwhile to build up something or another. But
yeah, I was going to ask you about that because I was kind of curious. I would think the expo cards become more interesting when there are 3 people, competing, or at least 3 people competing for trying to get the bonus points for having the most of a given set. Whereas 2-player, again, it was just really it just fell flat. But you're saying even with more players, that's still just, that's kind of nice, but it's really almost more just like a little bonus as opposed to any kind of core central element of the game, because it is just a few points.
Right, yeah. I mean, certainly it's a game where points are tight because, like, if you score 20 points in this game, you're doing fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen 20. I think I've seen 18, but not 20. And the expo cards are usually, like, I guess the way I usually think of it is that using an expo card is usually a way that you can avoid getting a loan, and a loan is also a point. So it's mostly nice if you get an expo card in one of the last few rounds where you might not have time to do whatever it is that you're going to use it for. Like maybe you were going to go for a garage and someone grabs the doors out from under you. Then you might hold on to it and score it at the end of the game. But usually it's like 1 point for 1 player, so far at least. But I've only played the game, well, I guess 5 times is a fair amount for me. But
that's more than me. I will call you the expert at this result. So actually, I'm curious. I mean, so you played it those 5 times. Actually, wait. What am I thinking about? So the set collection, it's a small thing, but it's really not that big a thing. But you did mention that you might have a game where you were planning on finishing that garage near the end, but then boom, someone snaked the final door. Because there just aren't that many doors and they're crazy expensive, and you thought you'd get it later when it got cheaper, but then is there a lot of denial gameplay when you're playing with higher players, or is the game itself so short at only 6 rounds that you don't get that much time to say, I could take this or this. I'll take this because it screws you. It's really, okay, I got to grab it before it's gone kind of a thing.
So immediately in the last game I played, we did actually do a denial play. One of the other people and I kept the 3rd player from getting the workers that they needed to actually do the thing, because they need it to build their garage, I think, and they needed to hire at least 1 worker. And so I bought 1 worker because I needed 1 worker, and then the other person just bought all of the remaining workers because money at the end of the game is worthless.
Yeah. And
it denied the 3rd person the worker that they needed to actually finish their plan that would have let them win. But
that was a conscious decision he was making. He was
right
because he didn't have to, but he had nothing else to do with that money anyway, basically.
I'm sure he had at least 1 worker on his board that he was wasting by buying like 3 workers in a single turn.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. I think there's sort of a push your luck element to timing the market because you sort of want to wait for the prices to fall. But if you wait too long, then someone might buy them anyway.
Yeah.
Or you might just run out of time in the game because it's not that long.
Yeah.
In some ways, I wish
about that. I mean, it feels like actually, even as a 2-player game, one of the things that really felt nice was that you feel like you get a lot done in a very, very quick amount of time, which I think is a real strong element. But man, I gotta say, you're breaking my heart. I so want to enjoy this game.
Yeah, so so one of the things the reason I rate this so highly is that a lot of the games I enjoy that have player-driven markets, like Power Grid or Planet Steam, Arkwright has a fair amount of player-driven stuff in it. They take relatively long to play. Mr. House is pretty quick and simple, and there's a fair amount of thought involved, but it isn't quite as crushing as like the auctions in Power Grid or Planet Steam. Where you're really calculating down to the last dollar.
Yeah. It's a little bit more easygoing. I mean, yeah. I mean, you can relax and play it, as opposed to every turn is going to make your head explode.
Right. I mean, one of the things. So the short list of disappointments for me in Mr. House, other than the two-player game not being up to snuff, is the I'm not actually a big fan of the artwork. It's okay. It works. Actually, the smudges on the board kind of bother me. I don't know if you've noticed them, but they did this thing where they look kind of dirty.
Smudges on the board?
Yeah. It's incredible.
Oh, okay. I kind of see what you're saying.
It's a cute detail, but at the same time, it drives me crazy.
Well, I think overall, I mean, I do think it's a very, very, I mean, the aesthetic is, really driven home by that little arch. It's very spare. There's not a it's very, very clean. It almost feels kind of like it has an architect. I can't say blueprint because there's no blue here, but it feels almost kind of like an AutoCAD type presentation.
Right. The board artwork I actually think is fine. It's mostly like the bits for the walls and stuff that look kind of clip arty. I don't know if there's much that you could do there, but anyway.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Actually, that's a fair point. Yeah, the pieces themselves. I don't know. I guess there's kind of like a simple, almost kind of like a Tinker Toy feel to them. They feel like it feels more like you're building a toy house than a real house, kind of, if anything. That's a good point.
I mean, like compared to like other bits from games I played this year, these were just lackluster. And yeah, I feel like the game is kind of really undermarketed. The publisher didn't post the rules until just a few days before Essen.
Yeah.
And there's almost no information anywhere about it. I actually played this at Essen, and they had a single table set up back in the corner of the booth. I mean, I would also probably have chosen to market UFO Farmer pretty heavily if I had that title.
Yeah. I mean, it's Grana, right? That was were they? Right. I mean, I don't remember their booth. Was it mostly, were they pushing CV more than anything else, or?
They were pushing the CV expansion in terms of like, but they didn't have much CV out. They were mostly pushing UFO Farmer, which had really nice plastic UFO bits and stuff.
Right.
I was interested in UFO Farmer because it's just a simple memory game. I also think Mr. House is the heaviest game that they've published, or at least
I think that's true. Yeah, they actually even go out of their way. It's almost like this is the beginning of their heavy games line. I think they talk about that. Maybe in the rules or somewhere that, hey, this is much bigger, heavier than what you can expect from us traditionally.
Yeah, so, usually they just have Grana on there, and this time they have Grana Expert.
Ah, there you go. Yes, it says it right there, Grana Expert.
So I guess this is the first in a series, hopefully. Yeah. But it hasn't. Well, yeah, it also hasn't been picked up for distribution in North America, so most people over here have not heard of it for that reason.
Yeah. Well, it is too bad. I mean, I think. Well, I talked about this a little bit in the run-through. The theme itself, I think, much like CV, also from Grana, is so universal. I mean, certainly, as an American myself, but I mean, I remember in England, I mean, it's a big thing. It's like a major life goal to own your own house, and in this game, building your house. I mean, you're right. I guess the theme isn't quite as strong as it could be because the components are just kind of all right, but still, I mean, it's probably the thing I like more than anything else about the game myself is you do feel like you're building something at the end of the day. Oh, this is my cute little house. It's a 2-story, and yeah, well, I didn't have time for a garage, but actually, there's 3 chimneys, and that's because it's so warm and it was certainly one of the things that Jen and I appreciated that we did. It had like a personal feel in much the same way that say Agricola does. Although again, very, very fast, very, very much lighter. It's funny they called this an expert game because it's certainly still on the light. I mean, even playing the heavy version, I would call it kind of a gateway plus.
Right. Yeah, I definitely agree. I saw the basic variant. I was like, I don't know who I would teach this to other than people who are new to designer games, or maybe children who are not so great with the arithmetic. Yeah.
I have to admit, I mean, I did a run-through for the base game. I hadn't even tried it, and so I was seeing the basic game the first time when I did the run-through just before this, and my first thought was, yeah, this would be great for kids. I mean, it almost feels like there is no reason to add that die roll other than just so that people can say, whee, as they roll the die.
Right.
And I do wonder if that's, like you said, it's because of Grana, because they have more of a friendly background. They want to make sure, hey, don't worry, you can play this with your kids too. And I guess that's nice. I mean, because I can imagine kids would enjoy building a house as well.
Yeah.
Man. Oh.
Yeah, it's a lovely little game.
Yeah.
And I don't see it going anywhere, unfortunately.
Yeah.
In the meantime, I'll be taking it to every convention I can and getting people
good man.
to play.
And of course, that's the run-throughs here too. Hopefully, this will draw more attention to it. I mean, the same thing was true for CV last year. After I did my run-through, a lot of people wanted to seek it out, and it got a lot more attention. And I do think, in spite of the two-player, I mean, it's well worth, because, I mean, it was obvious to me and Jen the first time we played it, wow, if there was another person or another couple people, this shopping thing would be a blast. I mean, there would be so much to think about. Gosh, should I go there? It's a big risk. There's already 2 people there, but, there's 5 steel. Maybe I could still pull one. I just need one. Or, okay, I'll just wait. Because, hey, I'll skip on it. The price is going to go way down, and I'll get it next turn, but then there's only 2 turns left, and it has a lot. I mean, there's surprising amount to think about in such a simple little system. It actually reminds me of, I don't know if you played, what was it, Dungeon Bazaar. Which,
I played Dungeon Bazaar. I actually hated Dungeon Bazaar, but I played it once with 5 players. And watching your 2-player run-through, I could see it being significantly better with 2 players. With 5, it was just, there was no control whatsoever.
It was just chaos.
Yeah. Because there's like 5 items potentially from a stack that are out there, and you don't really have any clue what people are getting. Yeah. So I might have to revisit that one.
Yeah. We definitely enjoyed it. We thought it was good as a 2-player. Although again, in the same way, this thing needs more people during that first phase of, basically, if that was running around a dungeon, this is running around downtown Palookaville. You really just need to have some more people to bump into. It's funny too. I could imagine. It would be so easy to develop this game could have come with a 2-player rule set where basically, I don't know, really I think this game needed a dummy player. It needed a 3rd player on the board, and I could imagine something like if at the beginning of every round of the 6 rounds you draw a card, and that card says the dummy player will go to space 5, 3, 6, 7, 9 in that order. And you always know that the dummy player always goes with a 1. And then, you're playing a 2-player game. You and I are playing, but we can see, okay, I know in 2 turns the dummy player is going to put a 1 here. If I want to get there before him, I should move over here now. And that would give you that more of that tactical maneuvering feeling, and it would be such a simple addition to add. That's why I just kept running through my head as I was playing it. Man, it could have been a really cool 2-player game as well. But
I've been trying to think of a good variant. I am going to post a player aid for this game, definitely, because I've already developed a little 2-sided sheet, mostly for the house requirements, which aren't that complicated, but it's fairly difficult, particularly the first time you play, to remember that every wall must have a window, and you must, in addition to having roofs over your walls, you must also have at least 1 chimney. And I don't want anyone to ever lose just because they forgot to build the chimney or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, okay. Well, so do you have any closing thoughts about this?
I don't think so. I think we've talked about most everything. It's a great little game that I wish more people knew about, so here I am.
Well, a few more people are now going to know about it. I should say, this is something I picked up at Essen myself. I was interested because of Grana, because Jen and I had loved CV the last year, but more than anything else, I was super stoked about it because of Adam Kaluza. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but K2 is fantastic. It is such a wonderful, wonderful game, and the cave is fantastic too, and we really like Draco, and and it's in all those games they work well. I mean, Draco, I think it is only a 2-player game. This was his first one where, well, it's interesting. He branched out. He tried something really, really outside his wheelhouse. But gosh, I think the game as it is probably should just be labeled as a 3- or 4-player game, really.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely what's in the box, at least.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, do you have anything else you would like to shout out to the Rahdo Runs Through community while you're here?
I don't think so. I'm on Twitter, I guess. But yeah.
Okay, well, what's your Twitter? Come on, we got to throw that out, I
Okay.
suppose.
So it's Nicholas Coe, Nikolasco.
Okay.
Uh,
I am putting that on the screen somewhere at this point, so you can't click on it, but you can type it in and learn more what Nicholas thinks, or track him down and tell him that he's crazy. Mr. House is an amazing two-player game, and how you've totally missed it, and educate him properly, or me for that matter. And I think that's about it, folks. Mr. House, final thoughts with guest appearance by Nicholas Coe complete. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, as always, please let me know. If I made any mistakes, other than the one that I already copped to, by all means, let me know, and we'll get those noted up. And otherwise, I think that's going to be it. I will wish everybody a very, very happy day. Talk to you later. So long. And Nicholas, you want to put in the final bye-bye?
Bye-bye.